Hello, now we're on to chapter 22, Southeast Asia and the Middle East. So we're going to look together today at section 1. We're going to look particularly at some of the major, spend more time with the major countries like India and Pakistan and why those are so important geopolitically today in that region of South Asia, and particularly some of the difficulties faced by that region as well in Bangladesh and Pakistan. So shortly after World War II, as you know, Britain was controlling India during that time, but in 1947, the nation of India got its freedom through mostly the leadership of Mohandas Gandhi, who will be taking a closer look at Gandhi and his efforts to gain freedom for India from Britain. And shortly after they gained their independence from Britain through the Satyagraha and the peaceful protest movement led by Gandhi, the Indian subcontinent was divided into Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. Now, Pakistan is, by far majority Muslim, practitioners of the religion of Islam, whereas India is predominantly Hindu. Now, there are a few practitioners of Islam in India still today, but mostly Hindu. So the Muslims insisted on a country of Pakistan, which we know today America has befriended in order to set up bases there to conduct its war against Afghanistan in the early 2003 and going on to today. So through aid, government aid, and political diplomacy, we're able to befriend Pakistan. However, most people today believe Pakistan is not looking out for our interests in the region, but rather the radical Islamists. More so, and much evidence supports that theory that Pakistan is not a viable friend of America, but rather of the Islamic State. In India itself, there's been much violence between the Muslims and the Hindus, and also there's much tension between Pakistan and India today. There's oftentimes violence between the two, skirmishes in the Hindu Kush mountain range and in the Kashmir region over boundaries and other disputes. So India was partitioned, as you can see from the map here, in 1947. Long-term causes was the Muslim-Hindu violence, and then Muhammad Ali Jinnah insisted that they have their own freedoms. There now is much ongoing unrest in that region, and as another result, as you see, or an effect there, Gandhi himself, shortly after independence was declared, was assassinated by Hindus, radical Hindus, who were upset that compromises were made with the Muslims. So today we have continuing clashing, as we see here. We've mentioned this several times already. The other reason this is so important today that you might want to make a note of is Pakistan and India are only two of the only 8 known countries to have nuclear weapons programs. So Pakistan and India, although they skirmish a lot and threaten war, it could escalate quickly if they were to unleash nuclear arsenal on each other. Could be a political and environmental disaster. So we need to keep a keen eye on these events. So those are some of the things: ongoing violence of destroying mosques, Hindu temples back and forth. Also in the nearby island of Sri Lanka, the Tamil minority rebels have also formed separation movements and are radical Muslims. So in India, they have quite a democratic society in some ways, just as or even more democratic than America as far as electing. The Hindu caste system has been outlawed in India for quite a few years, although it still is unwritten practiced, which does hold back some members of their society. Their economy has been strengthened as of late through outsourcing of American products and services as well, since a large part of India is English speaking. So, and they're well educated, and Indian nationals are quite good with math, computers, and speaking English. So, a lot of goods and services can be outsourced to India, which has been a boon on their economy. So, these are some of the things going on in India today. Even with their economy on the upswing because of this, their large population, a majority of it still does live in poverty. India would prefer to be a good friend with America and does not understand why America has tried to befriend Pakistan to further its military goals, and is hoping that America again will side with India. So these are good relations with India that were somewhat damaged by our work with Pakistan of late. Earlier in the 1980s, when we were industrializing without much thought to the effects of it, there had been some disasters with American and multinational corporations setting up in India as cost-saving measures without much thought for its effect. The most notable was in 1984, the Bhopal chemical disaster, where the chemical was released by the Union Carbide factory in Bhopal and caused anywhere from 150 to 600,000 deaths and injuries, which is a major disaster on any scale. And this was well documented, of course, and since then there's been changes in how multinational companies, work in India. Even in India, because of the recent spat with America over Pakistan, you see this billboard I just recently got from a picture from India: German engineering, Swiss innovation, America nothing. So India is more than happy to show that they don't depend on America as much. Pakistan has been under strict military rule since the partitioning, and that's how it continues on today. Although behind the scenes there are strict Muslim Islamic Brotherhood that does also have a big impact on the government. In Bangladesh, the geography there has made it very difficult for them to rise out of poverty because of the frequent hurricanes and the poverty there. It's very difficult. So General Pervez Musharraf has been leading them, and he no longer is, but he was also, Pakistan was known to be harboring Osama bin Laden, where he was found right near in a compound living only a mile from a major Pakistani military base. So that was also disconcerting. In Afghanistan, similarly, in the 1979, they were invaded by the Soviet Union, the then Soviet Union, and they also fought there against the Afghan rebels called the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen was supported by United States aid because, of course, they were fighting the Soviet Union, so we supported them. and gave arms and advice to one of the major leaders of the Mujahideen, who happened to be Osama bin Laden. As you of course know, later Osama bin Laden was known to become an enemy of America, even though he was a hero there in helping to oust the Soviets. So in 1990s, the radical Taliban took over Afghanistan and beheaded the previous leaders and put a strict fundamental Islamic rule over all the Afghan people. They decided to harbor terrorist training camps there, and including those training for the 9/11 attacks in the Pentagon and in New York City. So in retribution, shortly after that, when this was determined, the United States attacked Afghanistan in coalition and killed and forced into hiding the Taliban leaders. The supreme commander of the Taliban, Mullah Omar, is still alive as of this recording and is trying to regroup in Pakistan, more than likely, and making inroads back into Afghanistan again. So this is something we want to keep our eyes on right now. So India and Pakistan have independence. The Cold War did affect them to some degree, but for the most part they are independent. And here you see the leaders sing at an official state dinner with previous President George W. Bush, showing the close relationship we enjoy with India still today.